Well, that is not the woohoo from me, but boy, again, I'm woohoo. All right, it's Friday on the Let's Talk About It show. I'm Peter Abbarno, your host, filling in for John Vervalen, Kevin Carns, my buddy with Prometheus, and also Shale City Council member here. Kevin, I asked you to come back because I'm covering a couple shows like I normally do, and I asked you back because the last show did so well. People were like, "Oh, we love having you and Kevin on," so you're back.
Great.
I don't like great.
No, I love being here on a Friday morning.
Well, we get to talk about kind of some of the inside baseball stuff. And one of the things that you and I talked about at length over the last couple of weeks, though, is even all this crazy redistricting stuff coming out of whether we're talking about Texas, Florida, or recently Virginia. And that was pretty huge. I mean, what's going on with that?
Seismic shift.
Yeah.
So Virginia had a statewide referendum to redraw their congressional maps that would most likely, and keep in mind the Virginia legislature is controlled by Democrats and their statewide offices primarily by Democrats. They redrew their maps, sent it to voters, millions spent. Like I want to say like $84 million spent on these referendums on the yes and no sides. And the end result, it passed, they're still counting a few late ballots, but 52-48-ish, 51 something.
It's crazy.
And Democrats will gain 4 seats just by redrawing maps, 4 U.S. House seats.
Which is crazy because, well, first of all, if you read, I read the ballot language, and it was like, would you let us redraw the seats temporarily just for a moment, just to then go back later on? I mean, it was so confusing. I would imagine a lot of people are like, well, this is no harm, no foul. We'll let them do it just for a few years, and then we'll just go back to normal in 4. Is that right?
It's bizarre.
Yeah.
But it's strictly to gerrymander districts for the midterms this year.
Crazy. And so in Washington, is there any likelihood that could happen?
I think one of your Democrat colleagues in the House had a proposal that did not go anywhere. Washington has a fairly bipartisan process. That said, I think we got caught up in some legalese wrangling over some Eastern Washington districts as well, and I think our one of our callers is going to enlighten us on that.
Yeah, we got Paul Graves on, and Paul was part of the whole redistricting commission, right?
Yeah.
And so I think Paul can shed some light on it. I know he's on, so I'm going to take Paul now, but just an interesting time. I mean, I've had people say, well, it's Trump's fault. He shouldn't have brought up in the first place. And that might be true or not. And then they said, well, Texas shouldn't have done it. California shouldn't have done it. I mean, in my mind, nobody should be doing it. And it just smells of like the whole Civil War. Like every state is going to just redo their district maps to just try to control the federal government. It's pretty scary.
It seems like mutually assured destruction.
Yeah. I mean, this is the time, and I've said this. I was at a meeting, Lewis County Republican Women's Club, and I said this. I said, it just, everybody's so litigious. Everybody's dug in their corner. Nobody's talking to each other. Everybody, it's a time where society, not just politics, is so polarized that it's almost everything is mutually assured destruction, and it's pretty sad. But we got Paul Graves on, and Paul will help maybe sort through some of this mess. Hey, Paul, how are you today?
Good. Happy to be here with 2 of my favorites.
Yeah, well, we're glad to have you on because you can maybe help us. I mean, we've got our listeners are tuned in trying to figure out what the heck's going on, and Kevin and I probably aren't helping very much. We're kind of just the hacks talking about it, but you've lived it and done it. So, Paul, why don't you introduce yourself, kind of what your role was in redistricting, and maybe we can say what is Washington's system and what's happening nationally.
Well, I'm a former state legislator. I was a state representative from East King County, and in 2021, I was one of 4 voting commissioners on our state's bipartisan redistricting commission. We had some pretty nasty redistricting fights here in 1961 and 1971. And so in 1983, the people by the initiative adopted a constitutional amendment saying that we're going to redistrict not with just whoever happens to control the legislature right now, which is how it happens in most of the country, but we're going to have a commission. It's going to be 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats, chair who's non-voting, nobody on the commission can be in the legislature or in Congress, and you can't run for either of them for at least 2 years afterwards, so you don't get the issue of people drawing their own districts.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea is that you've got to have at least one Republican and at least one Democratic vote for maps. And the results have been maps that I think are largely fair. And if you track statewide races or presidential races and then you kind of map those results onto the results from the legislature, they map pretty well, which is what you get from fair redistricting processes. When you have unfair ones, you get what you have, like, for example, in Illinois right now, where the legislature is Democratic, it draws the maps, and in a state where Kamala Harris took 54% to Donald Trump's 43%, you get a congressional delegation that is 14 Democrats and 3 Republicans. So I think we do it better here in our state. I think doing it bipartisan and independent is the way to go, but that's not a requirement, and the rest of the country does a lot of different things, and you're seeing a lot of that right now.
Yeah, well, and if you're just tuning into Let's Talk About It show here on AM1470 KELA or KELAAM.com, I'm your host today, guest hosting Peter Abbarno. Kevin Carns is with me, and we have Paul Graves, who was on the Redistricting Commission here in the state of Washington, and is talking a little bit about how the process is in Washington and maybe what's going on nationally. And Kevin, I mean, anything you do bipartisan. I mean, I know some folks like to talk partisanship, but when you can do it bipartisan, or you at least have input and a back and forth, I think you just have a better product. And I think Paul's right.
I completely agree. You know, I'm doing work in a couple states now that do not have bipartisan redistricting commissions, and it's gerrymandered, right? But Paul, I'm curious as your thoughts on, I think you guys did such a great job negotiating, but can you speak to the lawsuit in Eastern Washington and the impacts on the 14th District unseating a Latina Republican state senator?
I sure can. So after the redistricting process in 2021, there was 2 legal challenges, one from, I think, just generally, one from the left, one from the right, about a legislative district in central Washington. This is a heavily Hispanic area. The district as drawn had a majority of its eligible voters Hispanic. So not just majority residents, but majority of citizens over 18 years old were Hispanic. But it was drawn so that it would be kind of a toss-up district that would lean Republican. And one of the challenges, the challenge from the left, said that this isn't good enough under the Voting Rights Act. It's not just that it has to be a majority Hispanic district; it has to vote for Democrats. And the federal judge agreed and redrew the district so that it would be a district that that Kamala Harris would have won by 12 points in 2020. Sorry, Joe Biden would have won by 12 points in 2020. But then a funny thing happened. Well, 2 funny things happened. One, in the 2022 midterms, and then in 2024, the Hispanic voters trended away from Democrats and toward Republicans, and so Republicans won all of the seats in that district, even though it was specifically drawn to be a Democratic district. And then really sadly and tragically, part of that redistricting process redistricted out 8 different Republicans from their current seats, no Democrats. And one of the Republicans who was drawn out was Nikki Torres, who was the only Hispanic senator from Eastern Washington. It all struck me as pretty wrong. The Ninth Circuit affirmed it on essentially a standing grounds, on a procedural grounds. It's a certiorari petition has been filed at the U.S. Supreme Court, and it has been since October a Supreme Court case pending, Callis against Louisiana, that presents the question of whether using race in this way, whether Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act requiring race to be used when drawing districts is itself unconstitutional. We'll see how that case comes down, and it might have an impact on the 14th and 15th districts here. I tend to think that all of that legal process there got to a really wrong and bad and partisan result, but we'll see what happens when the courts finally get done with what they're doing.
So, Paul, to kind of boil it down, we had redistricting through your commission, and it changed. It even changed for the folks on listening to this show. It changed even the 20th district, although the redistricting, changed a little bit. The 20th lost a little bit of South Thurston County, picked up a little bit more of Clark County, period. All of a sudden, you have a lawsuit all the way dealing with something in Eastern Washington on the other side of the mountains. And after that lawsuit, even the 20th district for our folks, we lost virtually all of South Thurston County and picked up a huge swath of Clark County all the way down to almost the city of Vancouver. Which just, I mean, people don't realize that even that small change, well, it wasn't a small change, it was a big change, but even that change had ripple effects on this side of the mountains.
It's a balloon. You push somewhere and you got to move things, and then things move everywhere else. That redistricting process for the federal court, in fact, even changed the makeup of districts in King County, even though it was based in Yakima County. So that's what happens when you have to change lines. All the other lines have to change to fit so that all the districts have the same amount of people in them.
Yeah, well, it pushed the 12th district further into Falls City, taking in parts of Monroe. Like Paul said, if you move numbers, they need to get an aggregate, even as possible number of voters in each district. You move one line, it impacts a line on the opposite side of the state that is not even a congruent, political jurisdiction.
Well, and I think to Paul's point, I mean, that's why you have a commission that tries to do something bipartisan, right? It's not perfect, but I just find it bizarre that you'll have a legislator that can potentially live in Wenatchee but represent King County. To me, it's just bizarre to me.
Well,
although if I can at least jump in on that one of the underappreciated and hardest parts of what we did in 2021 is that if you add up the population of all the counties on the west side of the state and all the counties on the east side of the state, and then you divide by 170,000 or so, which was how much you have to have for every legislative district, you got a remainder of like 40,000. So basically, no matter what you were going to do, you were going to have some district that had to cross the Cascades.
Right.
And that's going to be a weird district, kind of no matter how you do it. It's going to be Wenatchee with King County. It's going to be Moses Lake with King County, or it's going to be Yakima with Vancouver.
Yeah, no, and it's kind of weird how it all works. My big objection was having the court move into redistricting after we've already made that decision, and the commission is what the people wanted to change it again. But also, it's just bizarre that you get a lawsuit from the left that pretty much says we should be using, Hispanics, and then, it knocks out Nikki Torres, who's the only Hispanic state senator.
Unbelievable. And to Paul's point, it also displaced 8 Republican legislators.
Only 8. No Democrats.
0 Democrats. This was purely a partisan lawsuit.
So, Paul, can what happened in Virginia ever happen here, or is the initiative and the way the commission's set up, would that prevent that kind of gerrymandering kind of ad hoc?
We have some more protections here. Anything's possible. This is America, but we have more protections here. So you saw in Virginia, the map was redrawn by a popular vote of the people that was like 51-49, 52-48%. Ours is in our Constitution, and so it would require a constitutional amendment, which requires higher thresholds in both the legislature and then a vote of the people. It's not impossible, of course, but we have that additional protection of our process being written right into the Constitution, which is harder to change than just a general law.
Yeah. I mean, and if you're just tuning into the Let's Talk About It show here on AM1470 KELA or KELAAM.com, I'm filling in today on a Friday edition of Let's Talk About It, Peter Abbarno, and with me today is Kevin Carns and Paul Graves, who was on the Redistricting Commission. He's a former legislator, just talking about redistricting here in Washington and what we're seeing nationally. And Paul, I mean, you're obviously you're no longer on that commission. You're appointed for a short period of time a very hard but short period of time.
It's not the time, it's the mileage.
It's the mileage, right? But based on your knowledge of what happened and your tracking of all these populations, do you have any insight what's going to happen? Really, in a short 4 years, there'll be another census, and there'll be another redistricting. Can you provide any insight for our listeners regarding any trends that you saw that you think are going to continue?
Well, I can do it nationally and then at the state, too.
Sure.
You see nationally population leaving from Democratic states and moving to Republican states. These are making headlines all over the place. If trends continue, what's the number you've seen that Democratic states might lose 10 or 12 members of Congress, then 10 or 12 electoral votes in the Electoral College, and Republican states will gain them. That will be a real challenge for Democrats, and 2032 could be a real hard year for Democrats if those trends continue to hold. Here in the state, what we saw in 2020, in the 2020 census, is that in the decade before, the state had grown by about 14%, but had grown pretty unevenly. The Central Puget Sound had grown massively. We had a real boom in the Central Puget Sound from 2011 to 2021. And the rest of the state, especially eastern Washington and out on the peninsula, had grown quite a bit slower. And what that does is it just, like a magnet, it just draws districts, both congressional districts and legislative districts, toward those population areas that were growing. And so you saw that you had to have more districts in the Central Puget Sound and more districts that were pulled toward the Central Puget Sound. And so then districts on the east side of the state into the peninsula got stretched out to be bigger. I hesitate to make predictions on it right now, only because there's so much change happening in the state right now. We've gone from being the only progressive state with no income tax to being just kind of another blue state with high regulations and high taxes and poor public services. And if that happens, you could see a trend where, like with California or New York or Illinois, more people end up leaving and you end up getting kind of a smaller population count. But I think the latest numbers we saw from the partial census last year still showed, modest, like kind of average, national average level growth in the whole state. And so it's, if that trend continues, we'll kind of be a little bit status quo. But again, we've got 3 years until we take the actual census. And when that happens, there could be quite a bit of population change over the next 3 years because of the policies the state's adopting.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. Kevin?
So my old firm at Causeway Solutions, we tracked voter migration nationally for the RNC. And the thing that was fascinating is between 2020 and 2024, and I'm talking just registered voters, not general population like Paul was talking about with the census, but between 2020 and 2024, 82,000 registered voters left the state of Washington, and over 80% of them had a ballot score that was Republican.
Yeah.
And they were moving to Republican states, Idaho, Wyoming. But the inverse is actually true, too. Movers from the state of Texas to Washington, and there was about 17,000 roughly from red states into Washington, had a high Democrat ballot score. So what you're seeing is self-selection.
So the states, blue states are getting bluer, red states are getting redder.
Bottom line, and it's a self-selection of tribalism.
Yeah, which is scary.
It's further, bigger divide in the country, and people are choosing to live next to people that are like-minded.
Yeah, is that what you're seeing too, Paul, or did see?
Oh, absolutely. You're seeing that all over the entire country, and it's understandable. At one point, you want people who are like you, who agree with you. It's an easier way to live life if you're not constantly feeling like your beliefs are being attacked or being belittled, and you can have policies that you generally agree with. But what the end result is that we've got a whole country and a whole state full of people who just never talk to people who disagree with them. And then they read the news and find themselves baffled that some people do disagree with them. And none of it seems particularly healthy. And one thing that's pretty unhealthy, too, with, I think, a lot of this redistricting that's going on mid-decade here that's really nakedly partisan, is that the way you redistrict these things is you get rid of swing districts. You get rid of districts that are close, that in some years could go for Democrats and some years could go for Republicans. And the legislators and members of Congress who tend to represent swing districts tend to be the ones who have to listen to both sides and have to make decisions that truly take into account people who really disagree with each other. And when you have, say, Virginia going from a 6-5 congressional delegation with several swing districts to a 10-1, those 10 are going to be people who just simply are partisans, and the only thing they'll care about is their partisan base, because the only way they'll ever lose re-election is a challenge from their partisan base. And you just get nastier politics and worse policies and fewer people who are able to talk with people who disagree with them. That all seems pretty unhealthy to me, but I think I'm in the minority on that.
When I started working legislative campaigns in Washington, there were 15 split districts, as in there was at least one Democrat and one Republican between the Senate and the 2 House seats. Paul, what is there? There's one now, right? The 10th Ledge District?
No, there's the 10th, there's the 18th, and there's the 26th still for at least a little while.
So three.
So we've gone from 15 to 3.
But that's not a lot. It's not a lot. Well, Paul, I want to thank you for coming on. We got to roll and get some of our sponsors, but I want to thank you. Is there anything you want to plug while you're on? The website, what you're doing now before we move on?
No, I'm just a humble little person doing my law career and doing some politics, and I'm more than a happy camper, but I'm really grateful I got the chance to come on with you guys this morning.
Paul, thank you very much. Really appreciate you coming on, and I am looking forward to having you on again at some point, because I think this is an issue that's not going to go away, and the folks are really interested in it. So thanks to Paul Graves. Appreciate it.
Have a great day, guys.
Yeah. Good, really interesting discussion. We're going to go on to some of our sponsors, take a quick break, and then we'll be back. If you want to join the conversation, 360-330-5352. You're listening to Let's Talk About It on Friday, KELA AM 1470 and KELAAM.com.
It's Heather Stewart, your local real estate professional with Blade Realty. Most people think of real estate in terms of buying and selling homes and property. And while that's true, real estate is so much more. Owning real estate is your best hedge against inflation. It's an asset that comes with big benefits. It's your hot ticket to building long-term wealth. Are you interested? I'd love to chat with you about your options in all things real estate. Find me on Facebook at Heather Stewart Realty.
At Fuller's Marketplace, they strive to have everything on your list at affordable prices. From fresh produce to locally sourced meat, cut to order, selection of fresh seafood, and bakery. Items you won't find at any other stores, including a wide selection of international foods and natural and organic products, such as a large selection of Bob's Red Mill. For all your grocery needs, visit them on Tower in Centralia. Fuller's Marketplace, your locally owned grocery store since 1941. They look forward to seeing you.
Timberland Bank's banking app is a must-have for those who love to get out there. It gives you the power to pretty much do anything you can do at a Timberland branch from pretty much everywhere you've got bars. Pay bills, make person-to-person payments, and even deposit checks from the trailhead, the lake, or wherever else life takes you. Pairing perfectly with the outdoors, the only one that loves this top-rated app more than our customers might be the mosquito. The Timberland app. Get out there and bank. Member FDIC.
The Centralia College Foundation welcomes world-renowned pianist and Centralia College alumnus Charlie Albright live on stage at Corbett Theatre. This event is a fundraising concert to support scholarships and the Piano Maintenance Fund. Reserved general seating tickets are available for this amazing performance. Charlie Albright Live, Saturday night, May 2nd. Visit the Centralia College Foundation website at centralia.edu/foundation for details and tickets.
Friday edition, Clay and Buck. I'll take you into the weekend after the big NFL draft. I'll be live from Washington, D.C. as D.C. prepares for the White House Correspondents' Dinner, which Trump will be the featured speaker at. We'll have the HUD Secretary in studio with us and more. You won't want to miss it. Sitting you into the weekend. It's the Friday edition from Washington, D.C. of Clay and Buck.
Each weekday morning at 9, Clay Travis and Buck Sexton Show on AM 1470 and on KELAAM.com. You're listening to KELA's Let's Talk About It, coming to you live from the KELA Lucky Eagle Casino and Hotel Broadcast Studio in the beautiful Twin Cities.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it now.
I think this bumper music is better than the outgoing bumper music.
I think so.
I want to hear something like, yeah. I don't want to, the woohoo's okay. It's a little slow, but I want to hear some rock or even country, right? Where, KELA is tied to KMNT, right? So, it's country music.
Yeah.
It's
jelly. Get some Toby Keith.
Yeah, that's right. Jelly Roll. My wife likes Jelly Roll. Do you like Jelly Roll? I'm not a big fan of Jelly Roll.
I like Jelly Rolls, but I don't know if I like Jelly Roll.
Yeah, well, I'm with you on that one. I guess he's coming to Walla Walla, and she's just like, you want to go see Jelly Roll? I'm like,
yeah, but you can go hang out with Skylar Rood and take a stagecoach tour and all that.
You could, right? Yeah. Go do something like that. All right, we got a caller. Let's take it before we got to wrap this thing up. Well, welcome to the show. You're on the air.
Hey, good morning, Peter. Hey, first of all, I got to say, sorry I missed your kickoff dinner the other day, but I'll help in any way I can.
Well, I'm glad you missed it, too, because it was a breakfast, and if you showed up at dinner, I'd be buying you probably steak.
Well, hold that thought. We might do that someday. I listened to your conversation this morning about redistricting, put something in my mind, and I think it would help, because I think I may have mentioned this before. I'm kind of up in here. You hear about this new annexation that Chehalis is doing, and there's a lot of misinformation out there. So I think it'd be nice if there was a program put together between now and whenever the hearing thing is, to kind of educate people so they're more informed and not going off a hearsay.
Agree.
Does that make any sense?
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I bet Kevin Carns has got something to say about that in a very non-persuasive way.
Well, what I'm saying is I'm not trying to put anybody on the spot, but I'm saying it ought to be something that maybe we put together and get the players and maybe one or two shows just to educate people, because that affects here.
I 100% agree.
I absolutely agree. We need to do a better job of educating the public on the annexation. I was a no vote, not because of the outcome, but because of process. I felt like we needed to do a little more due diligence. But at the end of the day, if it is going to move forward, I think we should move forward in the most thoughtful way possible. Yeah. And I think the people who are going to be annexed into the city deserve to know who's going to represent them, for one, and to know exactly what to expect as far as services go from the city.
Yeah. I'll talk to the station and maybe work on a future show, whether it's me or somebody else to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, not to put anybody on the spot, but I just think it would be better educated, and I think it'd be a smoother transaction in the long run for everyone.
You are 100% right. Yeah. Awesome call. Thank you.
Have a great day.
Yeah, you too. Thanks. Yeah. No, good point. I mean, when I was on city council in Centralia, we dealt with annexation on 2 or 3 different occasions, and you're right. I mean, it can be a confusing process, and you need to understand not only who's representing you, but how it impacts your utilities and your services, because it does.
Well, especially going out into that South UGA, I grew up out there.
Mm-hmm.
It is not going to annex my parents' farm, but really close. I think we're going out to the Newaukum River Bridge, roughly at the fire station, right?
Yeah.
We're doubling the geographic footprint of the city, but that's still a pretty rural feel. I've had people reach out and can I keep my chickens?
Well, you're right. You're right. Some of the city codes and some of the UGA. I mean, it's the same thing. I mean, it's. I live off of 72 now, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, it's knocking on my front door as well. I mean, so you need to understand how it's all impacting everyone. And what it's going to do to services, what it's going to do to property values, how it's going to impact, and people get nervous, right? And unfortunately, and this isn't to judge anybody out there, or maybe it is, when they hear something, they always just assume the worst case.
Yeah.
Right? Whether it's on Facebook, turn it off, don't even comment, don't even look. But if it's social media or it's in the newspaper, when you read something, you just assume the worst. And I think learning more about it and understanding it's going to be important. So he's 100% right. Maybe doing a future show.
Yeah, I think maybe get some of the city and county staff on.
Yeah.
And talk about impacts and where everything's going.
Yeah, we can talk about it.
Let's talk
about it. The name of the
it.
show. All right. Hey, thank you for tuning in to the Let's Talk About It show on AM1470 KELA and KELAAM.com. I want to give a shout out to my buddy Paul Graves. Really happy he was able to join us this morning. I want to give a shout out to Kevin Carns with Prometheus, as well as a Chehalis City Council member, for joining me on this Friday show. And actually, he was the one who got Paul Graves on. He called Paul and said, hey, we're talking about redistricting state and nationally. Can you come on and share some of that? So really happy he was on as well. And again, thank you to all of you for tuning in to Let's Talk About It on KELA and KELAAM.com. Have a great Friday and great weekend, everybody.
From the KE